Lawyers, which case involving work things did you least expect? Story 1. Original post, October 16, 2023. Back when I went back to university in my late 20s for a PhD, I shared an office with a bunch of other students for years. One of them, let's call him Jacob, wrapped up his thesis and headed back to his home country. So we did the usual: drinks, cheers, farewell. One thing led to another, and we ended up spending the night together. A few weeks later, surprise, I found out I was pregnant. Problem was, Jacob had already left the country, and all his contact details, his university email and local phone were dead. I didn't need anything from him financially or otherwise. I was fine with raising the child solo, but still, I figured he had a right to know. I googled him now and then over the years, but no dice. Fast forward to last week, our department head blasts out a welcome email for our new manager, complete with photo and bio, and boom, it's Jacob. No doubt about it. That one night changed my whole life. I became a parent. Naturally, I've thought of him from time to time when my daughter asks about her dad, or when I catch a glimpse of some genetic quirk she definitely didn't get from me. I highly doubt Jacob's thought about me once since that night. Now, I don't know if this is going to be awkward for him being my manager, and Allah if I'm blowing this way out of proportion. Back in our student days, he always struck me as pretty chill and pragmatic. Our company's culture is very reply all when it comes to these welcome the new guy emails. People usually chime in with intros and describe how their roles intersect. So now I'm sitting here wondering, do I mention that Jacob and I were students together, just drop that into the email to get it out of the way? Or do I send him a one-on-one message, offering to chat, and saying I'll keep things professional unless he thinks otherwise? And, total 180, but yeah, I also need a second email drafted. One that says, hey, can we meet outside work? There's something important I need to tell you about our history, because he has a daughter. And if anyone reading this thinks I should wait and let him settle into his new role and country first, I'm open to that too. Additional context from me after Allison's comment got pinned. Big thanks for that top-of-thread comment, Allison. I left out the gritty details of how I tried to find Jacob because I didn't think they were central to the question. But for anyone wondering, I really did try. Right after I found out I was pregnant, I asked everyone we shared that office with. No one knew anything. We were office mates and bar buddies, not close friends. I tried contacting his thesis supervisor. Bad timing, it was Christmas break here in Australia, and the guy was on leave for 2 months. When he came back, all he had was the Aussie address Jacob no longer lived at. The uni also had a local next of kin number listed for his aunt, but no one ever picked up. Jacob is Chinese, and Jacob was just his English name. His surname is extremely common, so trying to locate the right Mr. Wong in a country where Facebook and Google aren't exactly standard tools, well, it went nowhere fast. I even found a recent academic paper on his thesis topic with Jacob Wong listed as a co-author. Reached out to the corresponding author for contact info, never heard back. At that point, I was battling hyperemesis, gravidarum severe pregnancy sickness, and had to focus on my health and the babies. I had to stop. Update 1. June 11, 2024. Thank you for the reality check. Seriously, I was approaching this whole Jacob as my boss thing like it was no big deal, just a one-night stand from a decade ago, right? But once I read the comments, it really hit me. This was a big deal. I hated the truth, but I appreciated the wake-up call. Thankfully, I already had a therapist. I also talked to my union rep, who said, say nothing unless Ha calls you in. Then call us. But I knew staying quiet and having Jacob declare the prior relationship first could backfire, especially with HR knowing my half-Chinese daughter's age. I needed to be the one in control. So I got an employment lawyer to go over our workplace policies. On his advice, I sent HR an official email disclosing that Jacob and I had a prior relationship. Then the retaliation started. Immediately. And let me be clear, having legal support doesn't stop people from doing illegal things. It just gives you ammo after the fact. I was hauled into a meeting with my lawyer, union rep, HR, and someone from senior management. They asked me to resign. I refused. They demanded a statutory declaration detailing what happened with Jacob, when, where, How many times? Who initiated it? I refused again. We agreed to go back to our corners and think of solutions. Their solution? Sabotage. My pay got messed with, my swipe card stopped working, my email and calendar access disappeared. I started hearing rumors that I had an affair with a manager. They even sent me for a random drug test coincidentally timed during a critical client meeting. They cancelled my booked travel without telling me. I only found out because I was so paranoid I called the hotel. Imagine waking up every day knowing someone with actual power over your job is actively trying to break you. It wore me down fast. The union told me to keep documenting, and we prepped for legal action. But the lawyer said it would take at least a year to resolve. I wasn't even sure I wanted to work there anymore. I was barely sleeping. I cried at work. I was unraveling, and we hadn't even brought Jacob into it yet. So I quit. I wish I'd held up better, but I just couldn't face what would happen when HR looped him in. Fortunately, I could afford to take some time off and regroup. Outside of work, I consulted a family lawyer to map out how things might go. My daughter's old enough that a court would care what she wants. She's always known the basics. I told her what I knew about her father and that I'd tried to find him. I've offered therapy if she wants it. Her answer's always been, thanks, but no thanks. The family lawyer helped me write a letter to Jacob. I left it for him. I told him he had a daughter, that I wasn't asking for anything, and gave my lawyer's contact info. A few weeks later after I'd convinced myself HR had intercepted it, Jacob emailed my lawyer. Same practical, easygoing Jacob, I remembered. He said he was still processing, wouldn't pursue anything legally, shared his family medical history, apologized if my resignation had anything to do with him, and said he'd like to meet his daughter if she was open to it. Oh, and she has siblings. I told her everything. She said she was glad to have his contact info, but she's not ready to meet him. She thinks it would complicate things unnecessarily. And she doesn't even know about the HR circus. Update 2. June 9, 2025, 1 year later. I just want to say how incredibly grateful I am for the support I got from you and the rest of the AAM community during what was, frankly, one of the most stressful periods of my life. So here's one final update. My daughter? She changed her mind. She reached out to Jacob, and now they're in contact. Still a bit awkward between them, but they've discovered some mutual hobbies that help break the ice. And the kicker? She's actually stoked about her new siblings. They think she's the coolest big sister on the planet. Now, for those still scratching their heads about why my old company went nuclear, here's the context. My work is under heavy scrutiny from external authorities, and Jacob's role? Primarily quality control. So if anyone ever hinted that his oversight of my work wasn't 100% impartial because of a personal connection, it could have torpedoed both of our careers. And here's the corporate chess game behind it. My field is ultra-specialized. There are maybe a handful of people in the country who do what I do. Turns out, a rival company had initially courted Jacob to build a department competing with ours. He's had an impressive career since uni, apparently. My company? They opened the vault and threw a truckload of money at him to poach him first, just to keep him out of the competitors' hands. This created a problem. I couldn't report to Jacob. There was no one else available to manage me. And letting him go? Not an option. Between us, Jacob was the bigger asset and the bigger risk to lose. So yeah, the way they treated me was trash. But there was a method to the madness. Doesn't excuse it, but at least it makes some twisted sense. I'm still furious at how powerless they made me feel. But the rage is cooling with time. Finding a new job? Brutal. I was picky, I wanted to stay local, but after almost a year of nothing, Jacob told me that the rival company still wanted him to start their new department. He was happy where he was, but offered to jump ship if it would help me get my old job back. I told him hell no, I would never ask that of him, and I also never want to set foot in that place again. So Jacob declined the offer, but he passed along my name. And it worked. I landed the job. It's a promotion from where I was before. I've been here 6 months now, and not only is it enjoyable, but I haven't shared any kind of intimate history with my chain of command, so that's refreshing. I've even brought one of my old coworkers aboard, along with 2 ambitious grads from my alma mater. They're sharp, motivated, and learning fast. Unlike my previous employer, we don't have a mile-long wait list, yet so a few clients have started coming to us instead of them. And I've got to admit, I'm loving the poetic justice. I've become exactly the competitive threat they were trying to avoid when they shoved me out the door. Story 2. Original post, February 27, 2023. Nope, you're not hallucinating. The title's real. I didn't believe it either when my friend, let's call him John, told me, but he had the receipts, so here we are. For context, this is an office gig. I'm 19 years old, female, and doing a college internship, mostly handling phone reps. John found out from someone else and felt I needed to know because, yup, I was featured. Turns out one of our managers, Joe, has a podcast, After Hours, with a buddy who doesn't even work here. And while it's mostly sports and politics, there's a segment called Work Stories, where he talks about employees, by name. One clip John played involved a coworker who went on maternity leave and her temp replacement. Josh made jokes comparing them and even dropped the word retard to describe the replacement. Yep, that happened. But the part about me? Way more personal. I haven't used Instagram in forever. Last post was like 4 years ago. Yeah, I probably should have made it private, and I've deleted it now. Josh said some managers follow employees, others don't, and in his case, that made him curious. So he went digging to learn more about the team, and found mine. Then it got gross. He said I had a hidden talent for high school dance that I never told him about, and joked it was probably because I didn't want to be hit on. Then came the comment about how my boyfriend must be happy with my flexibility, except I don't even have a boyfriend. His podcast buddy chimed in that my face wasn't doing it, and claimed that's why I posted the dance content. Josh doubled down and joked about whether I was still flexible, and his friend said he should drop something to make me bend over. I was stunned. It's on YouTube. He doesn't show his face, but his name's right there in the description. My friend wants to report this to HRAs, also telling the woman who was on maternity leave. But we're unsure if we should take more steps first. Like, should we bring a lawyer into this now? Or just gather evidence and go? Any advice? Welcome. Update, January 22, 2024. Well, I'm no longer with that company. My coworker and I followed the advice we got. We downloaded the videos where he mentioned employees, figuring he might scrub them once he got wind of a complaint. We handed over the thumb drive to HR along with the links. I told them those dance videos were from when I was a lot younger. We also reported the derogatory stuff he said about the maternity leave coworker. HR gave us a follow-up meeting, separately, said they spoke to Josh, and that was it. He wasn't fired. The videos vanished around that time though. After that, total silence. We think we know why. The managers, including the HR folks, are all thick as thieves. Regular sushi nights, same plaza as our office, Instagram friends. So we weren't expecting miracles. They're posting selfies together while our manager's making creepy YouTube comments. Josh started treating me differently after the report. Passive-aggressive, stuff-short replies, side eyes. Even the woman on maternity leave filed a complaint once she heard what was said about her. Nothing came of that either. Eventually, I submitted my 2 weeks and bounced. Josh still has his podcast, still posts episodes. Last I checked, the work gossip is gone, but the channel's active. I started looking for other jobs right after our first HR visit. Honestly, the whole thing just felt sleazy. There was one more comment about me that I forgot before he joked about offering a prize at the office Christmas party for whoever had the best split. Yeah. He said it was to see if I still had it. That's when I decided not to attend. It's disturbing to think I ever saw him as normal. Relevant comments. Corgi, cake. HR exists to protect the company, not you. Your mileage may vary, but remember that at all times. HR is not your friend. Document everything. The podcast likely breaks company policy in multiple ways, and some aspects could be considered sexual harassment. You absolutely should file a formal complaint together. There's nothing here, yet, to get a lawyer involved with. If the harassment continues, or you face retaliation, even a position change, then look at legal avenues. Razzle Dazzle 626. Yes, You should 100% take this to HR. Make sure you download a copy of it in case he tries to delete it after hearing he's being reported. Callie, grown 22. I work in HR, and I would absolutely want to know if a manager is making videos about employees, especially being rude or inappropriate. That's unacceptable. Story 3. Original post. So here's the setup. I work in a tiny 7-person office. No HR. Boss is as useful as a screen door on a submarine. One of my coworkers, a 55-year-old guy, has a sweater. Correction, had a sweater. He wore it every day, left it at work every night. And this thing, it reeked, like it developed its own ecosystem over the past month. At first, I tried the polite route, casual comments, "Do you smell something musty?" That kind of thing. He didn't bite. So I tried direct. "Hey, that sweater's starting to give off a stench. Maybe take it home and wash it?" His response? "Nah, that's not my sweater." Then he walked off like nothing happened. Spoiler, it was definitely his sweater. Bit of an oddball, sure, but I don't think even he would wear someone else's stink-soaked knitwear. Anyway, that night, after he left, I went over, gave the thing a sniff, nearly blacked out. It was rank, like gym locker meets swamp. So I took it, walked out with it, dumped it in the back dumpster like I was doing a public service. Next day, he's wandering around asking if anyone's seen it. I just shrugged and said, "Nah, haven't seen it today," which was technically true. I threw it out yesterday. Now, I feel kinda bad, but I also don't. I cannot work next to that stench. With no HR and a boss who thinks find a compromise means let him wear it 3 days a week, I honestly felt like I had no choice. Clarification. When he said, "That's not my sweater," he meant the smell wasn't his. The sweater? Definitely his. Comment section, meltdown. People started dragging me in the comments, saying what I did was illegal and that I had options. So I added some edits. Edit. Some of you are suggesting solutions that are frankly absurd. Just spray some Febreze. Have you ever Febrezed a bathroom after someone dropped a nuclear bomb in there? It just turns the air into toxic floral death. Next. Tell HR. I said we don't have HR. Our boss's big idea? Find a compromise. Like letting the guy marinate in that thing half the week. Thanks for nothing. Take it home and wash it for him. Sure, let me ask the whole office if anyone else has laundry I can do. Maybe I'll throw in a free folding service while I'm at it. Edit 2. The legality part? People are out here acting like I burned down his house. It's a sweater. What's the 911 call even gonna sound like? Officer, emergency, someone stole my mothball-scented security blanket. Or worse, I get dragged to court. Your Honor, I plead guilty to grand theft wool. Hope Judge Cardigan shows mercy and just gives me community service to folding laundry. Relevant comments. About me lying when he asked. I said I hadn't seen it today, and I hadn't. I'm an honest person, thank you very much. Would I do it again? Absolutely. I'll throw out 20 sweaters if that's what it takes to breathe clean air at work. There are no cameras, no snitches. My coworkers are staying quiet. Judgment. Asshole. UP date, November 29, 2022. Okay, so first, sorry for the defensive tone in the original post. Stress was eating me alive, and my guilt came out swinging. I still don't think the other suggestions would have worked, but I could have been less of a jerk about it. So here's the update. Every Monday we have a team meeting. I was planning to pull Sweater Guy aside at lunch, explain everything, and try to smooth it over. But before I got the chance, he took the floor during other business, stood up and told everyone he felt disrespected, said multiple people had complained about the smell, and now his sweater was missing. He said unless someone confessed, he'd be taking further measures. And let me tell you, his eyes had a wild glint. I did not feel safe. I thought about coming clean, but no, dead silence. He stormed out. A couple hours later, he came back with his cousin, who he said was a police officer. Dude was in regular clothes, no badge, no ID. Cousin was apparently going to interrogate us individually, all day. At that point, our boss finally showed some spine, said, "Nope," and pulled Sweater Guy into his office. The conversation got loud, then he disappeared for the rest of the afternoon. Next day, I found out he was fired. Was it the outcome I wanted? Not really. But hey, problem solved. Story 4. Original post, September 20, 2024. Alright, I need some serious advice here. I'm a 27-year-old female working an office job, and I sit next to our executive assistant, 61 years old, also female. Let's call her Paula. We don't get along. Mostly because she treats me like I'm her daughter, not in the sweet bake you cookies way, more like the passive-aggressive, I know what's best for you energy. I've asked her repeatedly to knock it off. She hasn't. So today we were in a high-tension meeting. 8 people, stressed, talking about a sensitive company topic. The air was already thick with awkward. At one point, our boss suggested we either take a break or call it a day. I chimed in and said maybe ending early was the better move. That's when Paula looked at me sideways, and with all the venom she could pack into her voice, said, "Well, you sure know a lot about terminations." Brief pause. People looked confused, and then she added loud enough for everyone, "Because she had an abortion." I froze. Everyone did. I managed to mutter something like, "Have a good weekend," and left early. I still don't even know how she found out. Only 2 people in my life know, and neither of them knows her. But none of that matters. What matters is she said it, in front of everyone, in a work meeting. There's no HR on site. Ours is in a different city, and currently on long-term medical leave. No workers' council either. Our boss? He thinks all conflicts are personal matters that people should work out between themselves. I plan to confront her Monday, but I want to know, can there be legal consequences for this? Or do I just have to eat this and move on? Any insight is appreciated. Update, same day. First off, thank you for all the responses. Seriously, I didn't think about half of what you all pointed out. I've already scheduled a meeting with a lawyer for first thing Monday. I'll be calling in sick and figuring out my next move with legal backup. You better believe this isn't getting swept under the rug. Also found contact info for the clinic's data protection officer. I'll wait to make that call until I've spoken with the lawyer. But yes, now I'm wondering, did Paula learn this through a medical data leak? Update. A wild connection appears. Doing some digging over the weekend, I found out something wild. The partner of my boss's son works at the clinic where I had the procedure. And Paula? She's tight with the boss's family. Shows up to their birthdays, family dinners, the whole 9 yards. So, yeah, pretty confident that's how she found out. Final update. September 26, 2024. Okay, here's how it all went down. Monday, I met with the lawyer. Totally worth it. As we're talking, my boss wants me to come in for a clarifying conversation. After checking with the lawyer, I go. Paula is there, crying, says, "It wasn't meant like that." Uh-huh. I bring a colleague with me as backup. We go into the meeting. Given the nature of the topic, I asked for official minutes to be taken. Everyone agreed. My boss opens with, "This kind of behavior between coworkers isn't acceptable." Paula apologizes and promises never to do it again. I ask, "What are the consequences?" Boss looks confused, asks if I want consequences. I tell him it's outrageous that he's asking instead of deciding. This isn't a schoolyard, spat, it's a serious violation. He shrugs and says there wasn't a data leak, he just slipped up. When I push and ask how he found out, he straight up admits he heard it from his daughter-in-law. Then, to top it off, he says, "But you couldn't even tell you had the procedure." I wanted to scream. Instead, I took a deep breath, confirmed what he just said, and made sure it was recorded in the minutes. Everyone signed off. I stood up, wished them a good day, and told them my lawyer would be in touch. Afterward, one colleague who was in the original meeting came up, apologized for not saying anything at the time, and wished me strength moving forward. I appreciated that. 3 days later, Paula's out. Apparently this was her 3rd warning. HR didn't want to do it, but word spread fast, and public pressure kicked in. As for the clinic, my lawyer contacted them. The woman involved no longer works there. The lead doctor was horrified, apologized personally and in writing. I'll be receiving compensation. My employer? We negotiated a very nice severance. I'll be out of there soon. Civil and criminal cases are underway, but I can't talk about that yet. Lesson learned: you do not have to tolerate this kind of treatment. Last Friday I felt powerless. Now, I've got a lawyer, a paper trail, and a win. Story 5. Original post, November 5, 2018. Okay, I'll try to keep this short. I've always wanted to try marijuana. One of my coworkers works part-time at a dispensary and said he'd bring me something to try. I live in California, so it's legal. But my wife's totally against it, thinks it's terrible for you, so I haven't gone to a dispensary myself. Today, that coworker came into work with brownies he'd made at home. I asked him if they had weed in them. He said, no. So I grabbed one and started inhaling it with my coffee. Tasted a little off. I asked about the flavor, and he said, it's made from all organic, different than typical brownies, then laughed it off. Being a complete dumbass, I just shrugged and carried on with my day. 30 minutes later, my heart starts racing out of nowhere. I'm sweating like crazy. My breathing's manual. Full-on freakout. I ask my boss to call an ambulance. They take me to the hospital. The paramedics are asking questions. Did I take anything? How do I feel? I say no, nothing. They tell me it looks like an anxiety attack. Then I get a text from my coworker. Hey, I put marijuana in the brownies. Thought it would be funny to see you high at work. Great. I tell the paramedics what I ate. They advise water, rest, and trying not to lose my mind. So now I'm lying in a hospital bed, furious, no idea what to do. Do I tell my boss? Call a lawyer? I'm completely lost. Edit. Now he's saying I can't tell my boss or HR because I'll get fired for using marijuana on the job. UP date. Police report filed. I told my boss. He's now asked the coworker not to come in tomorrow. HR and I have a meeting scheduled. And yes, I've filed a police report. For the people messaging me saying I'm a jerk for reporting him what? UP date 2, November 7, 2018. Lots of you asked for a follow-up, so here it is. I met with HR and my manager. They wanted the full story, what happened, how I ended up at the hospital, everything. I told them. My coworker claimed I knew the brownie was infused. Said I took it willingly to get through the workday. I told HR that was a lie. He also said I'd been asking to try marijuana, which is true, I had, but never at work and definitely never without knowing it was in my food. The thing that saved me? That text. The one from the hospital where he admitted putting weed in the brownie and doing it for fun. I showed it to HR. They asked for a screenshot, asked a few more questions, and then sent me home. I filed for workers' comp, not sure what's going to happen next. This is all new to me. HR says they'll make the final decision. My boss promised to back me and make sure I don't get penalized. Now the coworker's threatening to sue me if he gets fired. For lying. Can he even do that? This thing has completely spiraled. Final update. November 8, 2018. He's been fired. Had another meeting with my boss. They've officially terminated him and said charges are being filed. I asked if the dispensary where he works part-time could be informed. My boss made the call. Did it have to go this far? Maybe not, but he made sure it did. I haven't heard a peep from the guy since yesterday. No texts, no threats, radio silence. And now? I'm going to celebrate with a joint. Story 6. Original post, May 15, 2023. So someone called the cops on me. They said I was abusing animals. The kicker? It was an anonymous coworker. The cops came to search my house. But get this, they got the wrong house. They showed up at my landlord's house because whoever called didn't even know my address. Just my name. Nobody I work with has ever been to my place. But I work at a bank, and I suspect someone used our internal customer info system to look up my landlord's address and file the complaint. If I'm right, that's a huge breach, and if it's who I think it is, they're lying to my face about it. I asked both of my prime suspects. One swore it wasn't her, the other acted shady. I want to prove who did this, and I want to make sure it never happens again. Update. May 16, 2023. Alright, here's what happened. My husband had this dog, but our landlady said we couldn't keep it at our place. My husband ignored that for a month and hid the dog at our house. I was against it, told him it needed to go. He finally agreed, and started looking for a new home for the dog. In the meantime, I vented to a couple coworkers because I'd worked with them for 2 years and didn't expect betrayal. Then, Friday afternoon, the cops show up. Someone told them I was caging animals without food or water. They came in, checked everything, bowls, food, happy dog sand, apologized for the trouble. I'm pregnant and hormonal, and don't fully trust my judgment right now, but I'm 90% sure one of those 2 coworkers called it in. One seemed very sincere, the other, defensive and weird. What can I do to make sure this kind of false accusation doesn't happen again? Update. July 29, 2023. So now I'm 21 years old, 19 weeks pregnant, and things have gone completely off the rails. Let's call my coworker Karen. She's 60, works as a teller at the bank with me, and I strongly believe she used confidential info to make that false abuse call months ago. When I asked her, she denied it, and then dragged multiple coworkers into the situation, twisting the whole conversation. I got a verbal warning. She got nothing. Since then, I've been overly polite to avoid any conflict, but Karen's the kind of person who can't stand it when others are in a good mood if she isn't. Cut to this week. We're working together in the drive-thru. She's in a funk. I don't engage beyond what's required. Another coworker, let's call her Amyand. I joke around a bit. Then Friday hits. Karen gets mad at me for not doing something that was her responsibility. I say, sorry, I didn't realize. She loses it, accuses me of giving her lip all week. I try to walk into another room or supervisor's there. Karen follows me, still yelling, and brings up the animal abuse accusation again. I say I won't talk about that at work. She pushes me, hands on chest. I back up, stunned. Amy sees everything. Supervisor does nothing. Eventually, I manage to leave the room. Karen's still yelling at Amy. As I'm walking out, I turn around and yell, "If you ever put your hands on me again, it won't end well for you. Don't touch me." She tries to spin some weird story about me pushing her years ago. I don't even know what she's talking about. I message my supervisor and manager immediately, ask for a meeting with them and the bank president. Based on the initial call with my branch manager, I'm not optimistic. He said we need to find a way to work together. We'll see. Update, August 3, 2023. So I had the big meeting. Present were HR, the bank president, branch manager, supervisor, and Karen. I had already submitted a detailed written report. They opened by saying we were both in the wrong. Confusing, since the only thing I did was curse at her after she shoved me. Karen spoke first, said I was bullying her, claimed I hit her first by shouldering into her. My supervisor, who saw the actual event, just said I was shocked. Then it was my turn. I recounted everything again, exactly as it happened. Karen denied it all. HR never said who they believed. Amy backed me up, but it didn't seem to matter. No consequences for either of us. We're both on a 45-day watch. If anything happens again, we could be terminated. Afterward, they asked how I felt. I told them honesty, I don't know. I said I appreciated the joint meeting, but what Karen claimed was not true. They just nodded. Now I'm debating pulling audio from nearby rooms in case the incident was caught. My family wants me to file a police report. I'm job hunting now. This place isn't safe for me. Karen's been here 18 years. Should I escalate this legally, or just run?